Hi, my name's Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival, also known as AmDocs. We have a very special guest today, Debbie Miller, who is one of our moderators, but more importantly, our main sponsor. But I don't like to say sponsor, but really family, because she's very dedicated to our festival and she's been a fabulous member of our team. Debbie, thank you so much for joining me. And you're in a beautiful part of the world. Why don't you tell us where you're at?
Yes, I'm in Ayempe, Ecuador, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a little kind of a mini vacation I've taken down here before I go back home to Alaska. And it's
And
just spectacular where we
I,
are.
I hear the host there supposed to be is pretty well known guy.
Yeah, the host, Teddy Gruya, is he's probably working in the next room, beyond the pool. He works very hard down here, by the way. We're screening films down here for 2025. He's at it already.
Well, let's
But
talk about this year's festival. You moderated a few, and then I'm sure you watched a few. What films and what parts of this year's festival kind of stuck out for you?
Oh, well, I just thoroughly enjoy being a moderator. The first time I did this was last year, for the 2023
Mhm.
festival, and it was all new to me. And I'm a storyteller and a writer, so I love the process that filmmakers use in creating these fabulous films. And I've just found it of great interest and their process for making the film, their ideas, their inspiration. So loved viewing the films with the audience, and then the Q&As were just fun, just being able to throw out a few questions and get the audience engaged. So last year was the first time. This year it was even more fun, and I think I screened 45 films out of 230, but there were 15 moderators, I think, total,
Right.
volunteers and people, in the community. And I think everybody enjoys it because you're learning something with each
Hmm.
film. And for me, of course, I have a love for nature. So those ones always stick in my mind. The one I'm thinking of right now, because I've been watching birds in
Hmm.
Ecuador, so many species of birds that are in the rainforest. I loved the film about the two teenagers in Iceland, where half
Oh,
of the world's population of puffins breed. And these two girls, in high school decided they wanted to help the puffins because they were getting distracted by harbor lights and they were flying into boats and buildings. And so they would rescue these little pufflings and
wow.
take care of them and then release them so they got out to the ocean. And it's just a sweet story of taking action in your community and caring about wildlife. And so that was one that stuck out in my mind. But there were so many other wonderful films about everything from post-traumatic stress syndrome to um, water quality issues and climate change and Salton Sea, the Colorado River. There were a couple of wonderful films done by a local newscaster that I enjoyed, but then there was also a great one about water quality issues in Peru. So
Mhm.
you're traveling around the world really at
Right.
the film festival, and you see these common, threads of that people in Peru are experiencing some of the same things that we are in Alaska because of
Hmm.
climate change. So all of this was really a great way to experience the world and get a broader sense of what's happening, not just in your own backyard, but
Hmm.
in maybe 60 different countries. I think were represented this year in the
Right.
festival, which
Hmm.
says a lot about the festival. That people are sending in films from all over the world to be screened
Hmm.
in Palm Springs, which is really a great thing, and it's grown largely because of Teddy's work going
Yeah.
overseas and introducing people to what is done, at the film festival, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a sports journalist, and what I like about documentaries is kind of extension of what I used to do. 'Cause, obviously we're bound by deadlines and space issues or time issues if you're a broadcaster. And with these documentaries, it's just a chance for people to really go dig in deep on these stories and give you a real depth and context. And so every time I come away from the festival and some movies, I feel better informed. And it really opens my eyes to a lot of things. It goes beyond the headlines where you really understand the topics. And that's one of them you touched on earlier was KESQ. They were actually news pieces that they turned into 30-minute mini docs. What I like to call them mini docs. They probably just call Colorado River and the Salton Sea. And can you go dig a little bit deeper about the about those two? I know you moderated it. You had a great session. It's on our YouTube page. But what struck you about those two in particular?
Well, they both are interrelated, the Colorado River and the Salton Sea. I think what struck me, which is just the situation with the Salton Sea now,
Hmm.
with Imperial Valley and all of that runoff, some of it going into the Salton Sea, and then there's this incredible evaporation rate that's happening, and this concentration of not only salt, but
Hmm.
whatever else has gone into the sea that's not good for wildlife or people. So
Right.
I think that really caught was like a red flag went up when
Hmm.
I watched that one, learning about the problems associated with this area that what flooded from the Colorado River, what was it, over 100 years ago, the Salton Sea
Hmm.
formed. And then
Hmm.
it's just over time, it's really run into, a long story that's created a lot of worry, I think, amongst people that live near the Salton Sea. Just
Hmm.
breathing the air, for them is something we all should be aware of because it affects the whole Coachella Valley
Hmm.
if people don't get on it and work together to find solutions. And then the Colorado River, of course, is getting, there's a lot of play with politics and who gets what water and who got the original rights for the water. And that whole story I thought was really beautifully done with great graphics and learning about where, how they journeyed along the river and told the story. It was very well done. Quite a lot of information was shared between those two films. And then to go to Peru and to see what they're dealing with.
Hmm.
Um, and then you mentioned sports. There were some great sports films too.
Oh yeah.
The one about Through the Storm, about that
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if you saw that one, that the basketball coach in some small village decided he would start a football team,
Oh.
high school football team, and no one had played football. They'd only played basketball. And it's this journey, but it's just so well told about hope
Right.
and optimism. And then the kid that becomes a coach
Oh
grows
yeah.
up, wants other kids to become, to be able to play the game well.
Right.
And it's very touching
Hmm.
sports story. So whether sports or climate change
Hmm.
or nature, films about wildlife, there's such a diversity
Hmm.
of films for everybody. You may look at, one or two threads that really interest you, maybe one about food or one about dance or
Hmm.
one about social justice,
Hmm.
which immediately I think of Jane Kennedy and the wonderful
Oh
film
yeah.
about the first Black woman who was an NFL sportscaster and what she
Hmm.
went in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
discrimination and overcoming that. And what a beautiful human being and what a story.
Oh
And
yeah.
that filmmaker I thought did an incredible work on research, which I really appreciate. As a nonfiction writer, I do a lot of research. So
Right.
when I see these filmmakers really digging in
Hmm.
and going the extra mile to tell a true story with all the details and facts, it really shows in the film. And
Right.
I saw a lot of that at DocFest, and was very proud of meeting so many talented filmmakers and what they do for that journey of telling a good true story with rich details, engaging the audience.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a couple times the documentary about Peru and their water issues. I believe that's Wings of Dust, correct? Unless there's
Yes.
another one from Peru. So I met the filmmaker, friend him several times now. He won the student Oscar and it was on the short list for an Oscar nomination. And I'm going to repeat something he said. He was one of my earlier interviews. He said when he did the movie, he tried to get into festivals, and no one picked it until Teddy picked it.
Really?
And around that time is when he got the notice that he was on the short list for an Oscar nomination. And he's
Oh,
very grateful to Teddy because, he feels like he really took time to really select meaningful and thoughtful films. So I thought, I always feel like that's one of the strongest endorsements of our festival, but especially about Teddy because Teddy selects all these films and he does a wonderful job, a great selection. I know there's a lot of great movies that got left out, but that's just the tough part. But it's just a tribute that we get so many great films that's so hard to choose from. Um,
yes.
what and then also you helped us host the opening at party at your old
Yeah.
stomping grounds. Can you talk about that and a little bit about for people who weren't there? Can you talk a little bit about the history of Smoke Tree Ranch? Your
Smoke
that
Tree
you grew up
Ranch.
there, right?
Well, no, I didn't though, but my stepmom, who passed away, who actually was one of the big supporters and worked with Teddy to get the whole documentary film fest going. She supported it for 13 years, and then after she passed a year and a half ago, we got the Supple Foundation going to carry
Hmm.
on her and my dad's legacy in Coachella Valley and Palm Springs, particularly in the Cultural Center and the Camelot Theater. So that was all um, their love of the arts really permeated through the whole community, and they lived on Smoke Tree Ranch for nearly 50 years. And prior to that, her parents had a home on Smoke Tree Ranch going back to the 1930s. So she went to Palm Springs High School, and she actually, on a couple of occasions, rode her horse to Palm Springs High School, which is right next to the cultural center. She used to ride all across the valley, and she'd ride across I-10 because I-10 wasn't there.
Hmm.
And she
Wow.
loved her horses, and so did Walt Disney,
Hmm.
who fell in love with Smoke Tree Ranch, which was basically an old homestead that they turned into a dude ranch.
Hmm.
And there are 80 homes on the
Hmm.
ranch. And Walt Disney, at first, they didn't want him to live on the ranch. They didn't actually want to give him a lot to build a home because they thought he would bring too much Hollywood glamour and glitz, to the ranch. They just wanted horse people.
Hmm.
And he said to them, I'm a horse guy. I
Hmm.
play, horse, polo. I love
Hmm.
horses. I love the quiet lifestyle. I don't want a lot of glitz in Hollywood here. So they said, okay, we'll let you have a lot, build a house, which he did.
Hmm.
And he wanted to start Disneyland
Hmm.
in Palm Springs. He wanted to build the first Disneyland, but then someone advised him that probably wouldn't be very good for visitors in the summer with the 120 degrees temperature. So he went to Anaheim, but he sold his house on Smoke Tree Ranch in order to fund the first Disneyland in Anaheim. And then once that was successful, he came back to Smoke Tree Ranch and he bought another home, and he built what's known as the Disney Hall, where we had our opening night.
Yeah, and it's a great facility and it's a great property and it was just fabulous. But speaking about great properties, the Camelot Theater, the Cultural Center is just such I don't know if people understand, like, for this community, it's a important landmark. The other film festivals are shown there. It's a lot of cultural events, and it goes beyond us. Can you talk about, since you started the Supple Foundation, what the goals are? You talked about it a little bit, but what do you envision the future of it? Because I know there's some renovations going on there at the theater, and
Right.
what are the other bigger plans you guys have in store for us?
Well, what we're trying to do, our primary goal is to support the arts broadly in Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley.
Hmm.
And so, not just the cultural center, but beyond that, like the Desert Center for the Arts or the Desert Arts Center in downtown Palm Springs, which supports a lot of artists like Terry Masters, the late Terry Masters, who was a very dear friend of the family. And
Hmm.
that was a person that Rosine, my stepmom, supported his work as an artist. And so now we honor him through, supporting their organization and other organizations in Palm Springs is the idea that
Hmm.
focus on the arts and education and the well-being of the local residents. And that would include like the farmers market, which is a part of the cultural center, and all the festivals that are hosted by the cultural center. So we will support them, and we'll continue to support American Documentary Film Festival. That was like a favorite of especially my stepmom. I mean, she absolutely adored Teddy and the work he did for that, and funded it every year and loved following it, and truly believed that documentaries and education through documentaries was a path, to peace and a more just society, and sharing that knowledge through documentary films. She was a strong believer, and that's what people need to see, this kind of work, so that they can better their lives and support good causes, like we did this year with Sean Penn, honoring not only his documentary work on Ukraine, but being a humanitarian and
Hmm.
starting his own nonprofit core, which we ended up doing a fundraiser to help his organization, which was a great way to take it one step farther, not
Hmm.
only show the film, but let the people that are in the audience that are viewing this, that are
Hmm.
moved by the film, maybe they can support the cause that generated the film, initially. Um, so these kinds of things we'll continue to do. We'll continue to support the arts, largely the
Mhm.
arts and education in Palm Springs and Coachella Valley. That's our
Well, let's
goal.
not yeah, let's not forget the Supple Foundation did make a very generous donation to CORE and Sean Pence, and that was just a beautiful moment. So we
Yeah.
appreciate that you doing it and supporting, some great work. I mean, I do admire Sean Penn because he's a guy with a big name and a big career. And sometimes we take a stand, you put things on the line, and that people don't. Sometimes people don't understand what they stand to lose by taking a stand like that. But Sean doesn't really. He sees the world a lot differently from other people in that situation. So I really do admire him. I thought that was a great moment. We're really proud to have him
Yeah,
there.
very much so. Very courageous, the work he was doing in Ukraine on the front lines, and an amazing story that he told in his film. So that was a very wonderful, wonderful opening night to
Yeah.
honor him and to see that film. And then we had other films too that touched upon war torn areas and earthquake, devastated areas. Some very, very touching films.
Hmm.
Festival. So I mean, I had the Kleenex out. I would say, almost every film, I would get kind of teary at some point because of the beauty of the story. And
Hmm.
so much of it is about telling a good story, but not telling, showing a good story. And,
Hmm.
and I think the filmmakers did that well. And as you said, Teddy reviews 2,000 films, I think,
Yeah,
submissions, and
about 2,000 every year.
picks the top 10%, so if you get
Hmm.
in this festival, it means you're in the top 10%, and the
Hmm.
audience is seeing the top 10% of documentaries that are submitted. And that says a lot. You're not going to see any duds. I that's what last year on my first go, I said, oh, I know I'm going to have a few duds out there that, I won't be interested. And that never happens. It's like
Right.
every film is like a little treasure,
Hmm.
and the subject, is different. You're always learning something new. And I'm always telling friends in and around, not just California, but in Alaska and other places, come to Palm Springs in March. It's a lovely time to be there. The
Hmm.
desert is blooming, the birds are coming through on migration. And it's a great place to be outdoors and to be going to see these amazing films.
Now, you know, one of the things I think that makes this festival special, and not a lot of people aren't going to see it, is the camaraderie that's built around the filmmakers. I think there's a special breed of people who are filmmakers because they're here making these films and they understand more likely than not they're not going to make a lot of money off of this. I mean, I think a lot of them wind up not just losing money, but that doesn't tamper their passion. You see that in their films, and the special sauce for us is bringing them together and having them build these bonds and friendships. Can you talk a little bit about that from what you saw? Because obviously you got the ball rolling with the opening night party, and I know you've seen it just being at the theater, watching the filmmakers, all these friendships build, and they're just. Can you just talk about that? I think that's a special thing that maybe no one sees, but it really makes the festival special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a really immediate example that comes to my mind was I'm from Sitka, Alaska. It's where I live
Hmm.
now. And one of my friends there has a daughter named Sarah Camden, and she produced a film called Salmon Dance. And I
Hmm.
encouraged her after I saw it in Sitka. I said, you should enter this in the Doc Fest. Of course, she did, and she was thrilled to get accepted because it was her very first film. And Teddy
Wow.
gave it a high mark, which says a lot. And
Hmm.
so I said, not only are you going to be in the festival, I said, you've got to come because you're going to meet all these filmmakers. You're going to love it. Well, she absolutely adored every minute there, and she wrote a lovely thank you note about it. She got back to Alaska. I'm sure she's spreading the word everywhere in Alaska. But having these gatherings every night
Hmm.
after we view the films, these filmmakers have the opportunity to get together, and they get a wonderful meal, and they can sit around, usually in people's private homes that open their homes to them.
Hmm.
And just to see the storytelling and the sharing that goes on at those
Hmm.
gatherings is really wonderful. You can tell that everybody's jazzed and, sharing professional stories and technology, means for producing, films and the latest and the greatest ideas of what camera are you using and whatever, that there's just
Right.
a lot of sharing that goes on. And I think people just love that. The filmmakers love meeting each
Hmm.
other. And they're coming from all over the world,
Yeah.
so that makes it, I mean, we're all curious about how life is in other countries. So not
Hmm.
only are you meeting these filmmakers and sharing
Hmm.
stories about how you produced your film, but you're also meeting people from other countries that have maybe a story that you would have never imagined.
Hmm.
So there's that curiosity, I think, element and meeting
Right.
people that are artistic, that are telling these great stories, from
Hmm.
could be Israel, could be Peru, it might be
Hmm.
Australia,
Hmm. Poland.
Poland. Yep,
We had
Poland.
we had our wedding. Let's not forget our wedding at the festival. The two ladies who
That's
got married before the film. Uh,
right.
that was I actually met them at the party you threw, and they were talking about getting married, and I thought they were just kind of joking because I was just joking about, oh yeah, we can throw your bachelorette party here and stuff like that. And then 2 days later, find out they're getting married.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Anything can happen at the festival. Who knows what'll happen next year? Somebody got married this year. Maybe next year there'll be something else.
Who
It'll,
knows? Maybe we'll have
yeah,
some more weddings and stuff like
yeah,
that.
right.
Um, well, I think that's going to cover it for right now, unless you think I missed something or something you want to add about the festival.
Um, no, it's such a great opportunity to learn more about our world through the eyes of filmmakers. I
Hmm.
I just think the more people hear about it,
Hmm.
for those that love true stories and
Hmm.
learning, I would hope the audience would grow over time, that more people would come and attend, because sometimes these films are only shown maybe once or twice, and then they don't make it to the movie theater.
Hmm.
Maybe they make it on TV, but maybe not. So
Hmm.
you can come and see some real gems that you may not otherwise have a chance to see, and that's what I think is the beauty of it.
Hmm.
Is
I I've I come from a journalism background, and we know what's going on in this world as far as journalism. There's a lot of people, journalists being laid off. There's fewer jobs, and sadly, that means fewer checks and balances in this country. And I hope someday that we can make a transition, have a lot of these journalists make a transition into documentary filmmakers, because these guys, they know where bodies are buried. They have the connections, and that's kind of why we brought in KSQ. We want to start a relationship with news organizations so they can have a chance to not just a plan B if they get laid off, but a chance, an opportunity to tell deeper, longer stories. Because obviously, the two KSQ ones, they went really deep into the Salton Sea that you can't do in a 3-minute bite, and the
Yep.
Colorado River, which is really educational. It's really beneficial. I was really proud to be part of it, as I'm sure you were too, because I
Mhm.
think they were both fabulous. And I know when I saw it before the festival, I'm just like, this was a TV thing. The production value is way too high for a local TV station. But that was just a tribute to KSQ, and I was really happy that we could show it and put it on the big screen. But yeah, I agree with you. I think storytellers need a bigger platform, especially in these days when there's a lot of misinformation. We get a lot of great documentaries, a lot of great truth tellers. Have a lot of just a lot of great films that are just going to open your eyes to this world, and I think inspire a lot of people, because I know I
Yeah.
walk inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make a very good point. I think never before has there been a time or a greater need to have true stories told, because of all
Hmm.
this information that flies around, and people don't know what to believe, because there is a lot of fake news and
Hmm.
reporting out there, and what I call entertainment news, which is not real news.
Right.
So all the more important for these documentary filmmakers to present important stories that do tell the truth. People are
Hmm.
craving for, knowledge and truth.
Hmm.
So it's probably the most important time for
Yeah.
journalism,
Oh
both
yeah.
for journalism and for documentary filmmakers. Yeah.
Well, I'm a journalist. I always say there's always important time for journalists,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
that's just me. But even today, I talk to people and say, if you want to know how important journalism is, take a look at this movie Spotlight that won the Best Picture several years ago. When institutions fail people, the journalists were able to pick up the ball and go after and cover, shown light on someone like the Catholic Church and some of the horrible things that are going on there, because a lot of people weren't addressing problems or even looking at it. So
Yeah.
I watched that film. I was just really proud to be a journalist, even though most of the stuff I did was sports. But I I think that's a very important part. I think that's and not just and I consider documentary filmmakers journalists too. So it's a very important work that they're doing, and we celebrate them every year, and we want to continue to celebrate them on a
Yeah,
bigger level. And
absolutely.
we couldn't do it with support like you, Debbie. So on behalf of the whole festival, we want to thank you for your support and also your participation. You're a fabulous moderator. I've been to a few of those that we moderate. And I'm just like, I know this year you told me that last year was the first year, and I was just kind of like, I think she's lying because you look too polished to be for that to be your first year. You do a fabulous job. So thank you
Mm.
for
Well,
everything you do
thank you.
for us.
I truly enjoy it. To me, it's just I come down. I will do it every year for as long as I'm able to do it. Because
Hmm.
I really enjoy the subject matter, and I enjoy meeting the filmmakers and
Hmm.
hearing their stories of how they create these beautiful works. So that part is really a joyful thing for me. I mean, the hardest thing about the filmmaking is sometimes you get very moved
Hmm.
by a film, and then
Hmm.
becomes increasingly difficult, to like, okay, we're going to do a Q&A now, and you know, give me another piece of Kleenex, please. Uh, so yeah, it's trying to get it all in balance, and when you see 5 or 6 films in a thread, and you
Hmm.
want to make sure you give weight to each one.
Hmm. Well,
It's
you do a fabulous job. I mean, I'm always impressed by you. I thought you were a journalist as well. Like, I mean, you are a journalist,
Yes, I am.
but
I am. I'm a scribe. I consider myself a scribe of nature. That's what I'm doing here, by the way. This is my I journal every day especially when I'm in a place
mhm.
like Ecuador. So each day I write 5, 6 pages on what I'm experiencing, and the birds, and the you know
Well,
snorkeling, and
I,
all that's here, the beauty of this place.
I like you journaling, but on behalf of the festival, I wish you'd use your cell phone and shoot some videos, and maybe you could put together your own documentary for next year. Because Teddy has
Maybe.
too much time. He only reviews 2000. What's 2001? So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I should work at that. Do a little mini, like a little 30-minute or something. Then I can say, "Oh yes, I did it."
yeah, then
But
maybe you can moderate your own panel.
getting it accepted would be another story. I'm gonna have to work on it for a few years to get it accepted with the high standards of the Doc Fest.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share your
You're
share your
welcome.
experiences because I think it's very valuable that you experienced the festival on a high level. And thank you so much for sharing it. Uh,
Yep.
and we
Uh,
look forward to seeing you next year, if not soon.
yes, I'll be back. Definitely back, and really nice to chat with you and get to see all the good work you're doing for the documentary festival, and getting the word out, and the interviews, and social media
Working
is
on it.
so important to do
Hmm.
that, like you have been. I think more and more people will hear about it that way. And
Oh, I think so. I think
yeah,
so. I mean, I'm just trying to add stuff to the infrastructure that's already fabulous infrastructure that Teddy has. So hopefully, it'll grow and grow, and we can create more opportunities for our filmmakers.
yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Great to
Thank
see you.
you. Great to
Okay.
see you. Thank you so much, Debbie. And then again, just if people don't know yet, we already have the date for next year's festival. It is March 27th through 31st at the fabulous Home Springs Cultural Center. Debbie, thank you again for just your support, your time today, and just everything. I mean, the special people make this a special festival, and you might be one of the most special. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do lately. Okay. Take
Thanks,
care.
Debbie. All right, you
Bye.
too.